This free AI tool will process your thinking at the speed of light. It's really incredible these days, and I've discovered this new AI tool that will help capture all of the audio that you speak and be able to just transcribe it locally and be able to do it without sending it out over the internet. And it's actually created by two of my favorite founders. Their name is Mike Bird and Ty Fierro, who run the Tool Use podcast. And they have an amazing amount of guests on there that showcase all of the different works that they all do in AI. So I definitely would recommend checking them out. And so let's get into this free tool because I think it's going to be really interesting as far as how we are able to gather all of our thoughts. And then not only once you put your thoughts down, be able to use that in different ways, from creating blog posts to creating, YouTube scripts to like understanding your thinking about your business and all these things. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce you guys to Whisperbox. How's it going, guys?
Good, man. How you doing?
Pretty good. So yeah, tell me more about this tool because like I just bumped into it and you guys were telling me like, hey guys, I'm cooking and I'm so glad to have you on the show. So like, let's go ahead and show some of the folks what we can do here.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I built this app. Me and Mike built this app called Whisperbox, and it's all built in Python, and it works totally locally. So you can just hit start recording, and it's going to be recording everything that. Oh, okay, there we go. So it's just going to be recording what we're talking about here, and then you can select different profiles too. So this is designed to be custom, so you can make your little YAML workflows. Hit stop recording, so that's going to record this. And it takes a second for it to finish recording, and then we can go into files. We can actually see what we just recorded in here. Yep, there we go. And then you can actually make custom profiles in here. So like this is the meeting summary one where you have like, you create your own prompt, pass in the transcript, and you can make actual like actions or like workflows based on that. So this one just outputs it to a markdown file like it did here. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's kind of simple by design. You can modify some settings, record things, and that's kind of it. But yeah, it was a lot of fun to build, and I'm excited to show it to you today.
Yeah, that's really cool. So one of my big things, especially, is like if you're on these meetings and stuff, there's all these different apps that you can buy that will basically record your system audio and stuff. Or like sometimes what's really funny is that you have to invite this, random guests to your Zoom calls. And so that sometimes looks a little weird. It's like, hey, who's this like blank dude who's just on my screen? It's like, yeah, that's a meeting recorder app or something like that. And so I feel like these days, if you have something that's recording, the next question I usually have is like, where is all my data going? Who's gonna see the data? Is this is a super secret meeting? We're going to talk about some proprietary things. So the tool that you guys have built, what's really amazing about it sounds like is the fact that you can run locally on your machine. So this is running some type of language model that's hosted locally. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we're using Whisperfile to do the actual transcription, but to address your point, absolutely. We had been testing a lot of these different meeting transcribers and ran into the same issue. People would have to let in a guest to the call, or you had some that were running all the time. And if I'm sending a voice message to a family member or whatnot, I don't really want that transcribed. So we were like, okay, how can we do this better? So we had just a few basic requirements for the project. We wanted to be open source and free. We want it to be fully local, or use an API provider if you think that's something you want to leverage, as well as making it hackable and extendable. So what we set up was a little bit of a pipeline where it will record your audio, transcribe it using Whisperfile, which is a derivative of Llama file, which I encourage everyone to check out. And then it passes that transcript into an AI pipeline, which, as Ty alluded to, is configurable, and you can set up different profiles. So it'll take your unstructured input and create a structured output for a given application. So if you want something a little more professional, if you wanted something funny or condensed into a tweet, all of that can be done with a basic Python function, which is called after the transcription's done, all locally on your machine.
Wow, that is really incredible. So if you are a software developer and maybe you've been tasked to figure out how to do this AI stuff, one of the first things that you probably could do, I feel like as a business, if you're working for a company, it's like, hey, yeah, I can transcribe all of our meetings or set something up that can be run on a Mac or PC or some type of infrastructure that's hosted inside. And then they could just hit this little button to record their meetings and then have this type of service, pick up the stuff and process it all locally without leaving your guys' infrastructure. That's really cool. So yeah, show us more about how we can get to the tool and like how we can use it and get it set up and stuff like that. Yeah.
Definitely. So I will just quickly share my screen.
Mhm.
We wanted this to be available to everyone. So we just made a basic pip package. So once you pip install Whisperbox, you run through the basic setup just by writing WB Whisperbox.
Wow.
And what it'll do is it'll allow you to select your input device. So you can see I have my MacBook microphone, my Shure mic, even my earpods. So I will select the quality mic, and then you'll want to capture system audio. Now this changes from operating system to operating system. So if you have a Mac, you'll have to install Black Hole, and that just allows the system audio to be routed through the application. So select that. And then you'll get to select the Whisper model. This allows the transcription to be done on your machine. Now, there are different tiers you can get where you trade off speed versus accuracy. But to expedite the demo, we'll just do tiny to get it downloaded nice and quick. Pulls it down from Hugging Face automatically and sets it in your machine. Then you'll select your preferred AI provider. So like I mentioned, using Ollama, all local, but you can also set up with OpenAI or Anthropic, or if you want some really fast speed, Grok. But because we're kind of looking for the private, all local option, I'll just do Ollama. Then you get to select the model you want, and we'll do Llama 3.2. After this setup process, it's all sent to a config file. So I'll quickly open that up, and then you can see here, it'll store everything there and be fully configurable for you. So you can see Llama 3.2 through Llama. We get some audio settings as well as where everything is saved. So you can change this anytime you want. If you want to set debug mode, which has helped us out a lot lately. Turns out system audio is not the easiest thing to work with. But we want it to be open source. So if you have any implementation details that could make it better, by all means, make a PR. When you do a meeting or a monologue, all of it can be saved within the data file, where every single recording will get its own file along with the saving of the recording, the transcription files, and any output generated from the action. That way you have everything you need from a single recording in one place. When we were talking about the different profiles, these are some of the default ones we've set up. So you can do the meeting summary, which is the default. Most people want that. What are the action items? What are the deliverables? But you also have ones like meeting to a blog post, which I'll open up to showcase here. So when you have meeting to blog post profile set, you can see that we give a few instructions to the LLM to get sent along with the output from the transcript. So you can tweak this however you want to match your use case if you want to have it sounding a certain way or omit certain details. And then the magic is in the actions. So this will actually call these Python scripts. And you can pass in a configuration if you want to save certain values or pass along certain values to the script. And then it will complete these actions. To show you some of the default actions, which again are just a Python file that anyone is going to be able to make themselves, check out the scripts directory. So you have a basic copy to clipboard where all it'll do is take the output from the AI, copy it to your clipboard. This is great if you want to generate a tweet or a LinkedIn post. You don't need to generate an asset. You just want it to be able to be posted very quickly. You also have an output to Markdown. We love our Markdown. We use Obsidian for our knowledge base. Markdown seems to be a very strong file format for dealing with AI. So we have most of the output there. But you can also output to your terminal, or one thing that we love doing is sending a post request. So it'll actually take this output from the AI and send it off to a webhook or some other service you want. So if you want to save it to a database or you want to send it to an email, all that can be done with these scripts, but you can also just make your own. Code's open source at tooluse/whisperbox on GitHub. You can make your own scripts. You can, we ideally want you to share it with the world, but you can keep it local. It's all MIT licensed, so have at it. And then the basic script just has let me just zoom in a bit. It'll have a run action function, and that's it. Run action function that takes in the artifact and then the configuration. So the configuration is optional, and the artifact is usually just the transcript. So with these little bits of the pipeline, you're able to actually take your voice input and then process it in a way that adds more value and more structure. So you're able to leverage the speed of voice, but you still get the structure that comes from typing. So we think this is a pretty good tool for being able to expedite the way that you interact with your computer in the age of AI.
That's really, really cool. I think it's really amazing that it's open source because, as our friend Jesse here says, this is so awesome. I'm learning to code, and I've just been messing with something like this, and it's really looking forward to go and take a look at it. I think that's another thing that we forget to mention in the age of like open source, which is really nice, is the fact that you can share back your research and things that you've done, so others can actually ask questions on it. So they can throw this into another language model and start understanding, how do I do this, or how would I add this feature, or you could even use a language model to create these little YAML files, which would be those instructions to process the meeting in your way. And maybe even give it examples of meetings that you've had before and say, this is a structure of a meeting that I like, when I took this agenda and the notes that sent over email. Can you create a new YAML file configuration so that when my transcript is done, it should be looking like this? And so the AI can generate that YAML file for you really quickly. And then you just throw that in and, run your meeting and put that little thing at the end, and boom, you should be able to basically get it in the format that you want, which is really amazing. Oh, that's so cool. Wow. Yeah, this is amazing. That's like open source and available for everyone to play with and stuff. And so in the command line, once you do this and you select the audio, there's just another command to basically stop the audio, and it just does its processing to save it locally, right?
Yeah. So let me give you a quick example. So run it with WB, then you pass in the profile flag. So for this profile, let's do meeting to tweet. So it fires up with that, and just simple enter, start, and stop. We originally had it with hotkeys, but we're encountering a few issues there. So again, call for help if anyone wants to extend this tool. Adding hotkeys allowed it to be accessed globally. But with this, the workflow I've been doing is just shrink the terminal box down, have in the top right-hand corner of my screen, and then anytime during the day, I can just trigger it in order to capture either my thoughts or the meeting I'm having. So let's say I had a meeting with Ray today, and he was talking to me about the value of live streams. We were able to bond with their audience more, and especially in the age of AI, when things move so quickly, creating high production content can sometimes fall behind. So we do that. We have had the issue where sometimes we'll get seg faults with Whisper file. So there's something with Python apps that aren't always optimal for desktop, but we'll try it again. So working with Ray on the benefits of live streams for creating a tighter bond with your audience, as well as producing content faster so you don't fall behind with high production value content.
Well, Twitter loves demos that are fresh and hot off the press,
Yeah, it's all good. Another question here from someone that says, what tool do you guys use to get transcribes from YouTube? Have you guys experimented with that at all?
Yeah. I actually threw together a really quick script, and it takes... Yeah, that was totally not involved with this. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
Ooh, I like this.
I might have to share that. I'll tweet that one out after. I'm not sure which folder it's living in. But honestly, it was one of those things where Ty and I, we have a little powwow every week where we kind of come up with a few ideas. Then we take it, go to Claude, be like, can you give me the basic code for this? Outputs a proof of concept, and then we spend a half-hour hackathon putting something together. And then it just takes the Python script, a URL, and then desired output, and it'll take the subtitles directly from the YouTube video, whether they're supplied by the uploader or auto-generated, and then puts it in a markdown file.
Whoops! I totally I dropped the audio. I was like, that's so cool. I think there's another one that people there's like a couple libraries, I guess, with Python. So Python is really nice. One is that the language models know a lot about Python, which is great. It's like a very popular language. And then two is the fact that there's a lot of libraries to use. So just Googling around or even asking an LLM, it may even choose one for you. And then you can kind of play around with that. Obviously running it locally is pretty fun because you can just do all the downloads and so forth. And that's amazing. That's so cool. Wow.
One of the biggest motivations for this was just to be able to write our own prompts, because I've used so many of these little meeting recorder tools and I don't know what their prompts are they just all right, well, here's your action items. And it's based on what prompt did you use? It's nice to be able to actually create your own prompts. And so we created our own little YAML file, and you can just edit it really quick. We were doing user calls last week or 2 weeks ago, and now we can create a profile that's just for user calls specifically and kind of pass in exactly what our product is and pass in the person that we're talking to, and it can actually get us really good transcription results. So I just love the idea of it being customizable. And this idea of scripts, which I thought was brilliant that Mike put in there, is you could add this directly to a Airtable database in the cloud. You could add it directly to, we could post it to Slack. You could send an email. It's just kind of a cool idea because you can just take voice, do something with it, and then send it somewhere. And it's simple, but it's powerful.
Wow. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourselves. Like, how, yeah, like tell us a little bit about yourself. I know I've met you guys through the Tool Use podcast. But like, yeah, what do you guys do? What's your profession, and kind of how long have you been doing this stuff?
Absolutely. So Ty and I recently started a company, Anetic, where we are looking to help businesses and people thrive in the age of AI. Purposely staying stealth for the time being, but we are more than excited for an announcement that we have coming up pretty soon. But for now, you just want to tag along to the tool use journey. So, been a developer for a while. Ty and I met working at open source project in the past, Open Interpreter, and we started doing the tool use podcast. We had these great weekly conversations where we talk about the latest news, the different things we've been playing around with, and we thought it'd be great to just record it, put it on the internet, maybe do a couple demos. So it was fun. And it's grown into this very cool resource where a lot of great builders or executives in the AI space come on and share their workflows, share their opinions on the different tools that exist, and they're able to just help spread the knowledge in a casual conversation. And then we had episodes like the one that went out earlier today, where we just get to do a demo, kind of talk shop about the latest and greatest. But it's really just been a way for us to take these private conversations that we've had and put it out to the world. And the feedbacks are really cool. It's allowed us to meet you, and we had you on the episode a few months back, which was a lot of fun. Still one of the best episodes in my mind. But we were just able to have these conversations that we really want to have with people, pick their brain, be able to get insights to their day to day, and they get to promote their product themselves. And, it's a win-win all around.
That's really cool. Yeah. Ty, tell me about your background and kind of how, you got into this as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been, so weirdly enough, I actually got a biology degree in college. So I was doing biology back in college, and then decided I didn't want to do that anymore. And so I just learned to code myself right at the height of COVID. So I just went on YouTube and Udemy and just kind of learned myself, built a bunch of projects, got a job at a university building research applications, and then got the job at Open Interpreter. And so we were building computer controlling agents last year, coding agents, and had a lot of fun with it, and decided in November that it was time to try our own thing. So started my own company. Me and Mike are starting our own company, and we've been at it for about a month and a half now. And yeah, it's been learning a lot. There's running companies are hard, but it's been a lot of fun. And the Tool Use podcast, I absolutely adore because it's been so much fun. My favorite part about the Tool Use podcast is that we have new creators on every week, and most people actually that come on have never been on a podcast before, and so it's their like first time actually being on a podcast and sharing their ideas. And we just absolutely love having conversations with these people because we learn so much. So yeah, having a lot of fun with it.
That's cool. Yeah, I've learned just watching you guys, and it's really cool to be super early on something like this because we're all trying to build with AI, and there are a lot of people who are out there doing different things, and it feels very raw and feels very like much like something I would bump into, someone else who's making software and having a conversation on the street or at a meetup or something. So it's kind of a really great portal to enter, to tool use, and it's a range of topics, really, like just raw like business of what's going on, kind of where people are at. To me, it feels very relatable as another like engineer slash developer because it goes a little bit more into technical details. And I'm not getting a very broad general scope of something. It's much more like dialed in as far as that. And so I would definitely recommend if you're like a developer interested or just even interested in getting started in developing. And kind of like Jesse was saying here that he was playing around with, trying to figure out how to do transcription stuff. And then the fact that you guys publish a lot of your stuff in tool use as open source is a really great playground for people to go play around with those tools and learn more about, like, how do I build this thing? Or, hey, I saw these guys build it. I want to add this feature to it. How do I do that? So open source is a great way to do that. Wow, that's awesome. And so what do you say, like, was your biggest challenge then going from like transitioning, I guess, because you've transitioned already from like sort of working a job to like now going on your own and stuff, and kind of what are some of those things that you've seen so far where you're like, I didn't know that was a thing. Everyone glorifies this or whatever, like would love to hear your insights. Yeah.
I personally, I found the biggest change being the externalities that come with running a business. Ty and I are both well versed in the AI space in terms of the products that exist, how to implement it, how to build things really quickly, and then make them robust and production ready. But having to deal with compliance, lawyers, accountants, all of the less sexy stuff about a business, all of a sudden that falls on your plate and you have no one to really hand it off to, because we're bootstrapping this whole thing. So we are reliant on no one except ourselves and our good friends who will reach out and have conversations with us to help kind of guide our path. But the innate desire of spending almost every day learning about something new in the AI space and being able to experiment and tinker, all of a sudden it has to take a back seat to being like, okay, what is our customer who we're going to sell to? How can we improve the sales pitch and actually take our technical ideas and wrap it in something that's consumable and marketable, and get to that next point when it's no longer just selling tech, but selling a product. So it's been a great learning experience so far, but both of us have acknowledged that we kind of wanted to find the right balance between business and tech, which is why we kind of did Whisperbox. We thought, let's spend the nights and weekends, do something that would benefit our day to day, open source it, make a 2-use episode on it, share it with Ray, and then just try to get that satisfaction before going back into figuring out our ICPs and our burn rate and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a pretty big risk and challenge. And Ty, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think starting a business, it's really the administration stuff, kind of like Mike said, like actually starting the company, talking to lawyers, doing all that type of stuff. It's just like no one teaches you that, there's not really a lot of good, maybe there are good courses out there. I just haven't spent a lot of time out there, but really the most important part is just building. I think the most important lesson that I've learned and continue to learn and will keep learning is to just ruthlessly prioritize, because there's so many things you could do at a business every day. There's so many things you could build, so many features I want to build. I want to make buttons look better, and I want to make things work a little, as an engineer, I love to do those things. And like working at companies in the past, like I get my Jira tickets done for a couple days, and then I can all right, now I can go make the buttons look pretty. But no, not now. As a startup founder, it's like you only have so much time in the day. You have to figure out what are the most high leverage things I can do right now, and let's focus on that and only that. So learning how to prioritize has been huge for me.
Wow. Yeah, that's kind of tough, especially because I feel like in today's world, so you have to also kind of learn the social media game, which we're all trying to figure out at the same time. So it's like, to be a founder, you have to like almost do like social media, your personal type of brand type of thing, whatever you're representing. And then anything else that comes after that, like saying business administration, talking to customers, the most important stuff. And you're like, and then there's code, which you do love to do. And that's a, how do you strike a balance between like maybe an idea you have that's itching and then like all this other business stuff,
I will say one of the biggest benefits to the way Ty and I have approached this is we have each other as co-founders, because a lot of people I talk to who are solopreneurs, solo founders, they have to write out their agenda to block it in. But with Ty and I holding each other accountable and being able to have these quick huddles or connections where we can kind of bounce ideas off each other, we're able to kind of get a second set of eyes, because I know and I think Ty as well, will sometimes rabbit hole down an idea being like, if we have this implemented, it's going to drive all these other things. And then you think about it and you think about the implementation and whatnot, and then you have a chat with each other, and then we're like, okay, awesome idea for later. And then you can kind of get pulled back in and focus on what needs to be delivered this week. But it's really just, for me, having someone hold me accountable. And like Ty said, fixate on what drives the biggest value. Like, where's the biggest bottleneck right now? Because we all only have 24 hours in a day, and everyone can work the same amount of hardness on their priorities. But if you can figure out where you can actually get extra benefit, you can outperform others. So it's a balancing act, and we're by no means perfect. Like this, you could argue Whisperbox was a deviation from what we should be focusing on, but for our mental well-being and just the general builder itch, we thought it was a pretty important thing to spend a bit of time on.
Oh, that's cool. That's that's really interesting. I've kind of come to a similar conclusion as well, is that if there is a tool that you use every day or even need, and you build it and you just put it out there, I think the mere exercise of actually just shipping is super valuable. To me, I learned a lot because I also came from like a corporate background. So you're just used to, like you're saying, you finish your tickets or whatever, and then you have polish time, and then you have other time. There's like a set deadline, like fall or something. So then you work towards those goals, and then the rest just kind of becomes sort of filler time in some ways. There's always stuff to do, but like as far as prioritizing, that's really kind of how it goes. But now that you're on your own, you're like, okay. It's so easy to overthink, to want to put every single feature in there and every single, like, okay, I get security conscious. So like okay, what about this? And like, how about if they hit this endpoint and do this funny thing? And like, it's like, bro, only like 5 people are going to use your app, Bray. So like, just chill out for the first like 10 days, like, just add as you go. And I think another thing maybe that people don't talk about, I want to share is what I call like compounding interest in your app. So when you first release an app, it's just going to be like, I think there's a reason why like the more bare bones, the better, because you add value over time. So think about every company that's ever existed. So like Apple has been in existence for like 30 plus years. Their value has compounded over time. All the frameworks that they've built with software, it just keeps stacking, which is amazing. That's the power of software. It's like you don't, it can replicate itself. You can keep building on top of it and keep going more and more. And then, it actually earns value over time. Salesforce, the same way. Like those people had some software that kept building. It came like from a database wrapper to like a whole CRM to, like all these different concepts, app stores. Like, that whole company has just evolved and gained value. If you look at it, even in the S&P 500, how much, value they've gained over time. And I think maybe that's kind of an interesting way to kind of think about our own software too. It's like we could start small. That's good, actually, because then we can keep adding value to it over time. And just the exercise of getting it out there and then doing these types of things can actually help. And you never know where some thread may pull, and you could be like, wow, I just found oil. I need to go harvest this thing and, figure out where I can, do my little business here. So I think that's really cool. I really admire you guys just for even putting it together and being very diligent, and trying to make this actually work out. It's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think another big lesson I've learned too is like you talk about like building upon a product, right? Like the software just keeps kind of building upon itself and it grows and it gets better. And it's kind of a double-edged sword because the more it grows, the more you have to maintain and the more complexity that gets added, right? So I've learned from this, but also from previous projects, like how important it is to, in the age of AI, like use an O1 Pro, use the smartest reasoning model you got. I mean, everyone's got a smart one now with DeepSeek, and like lay out the structure of the project early and really set it up for success for the future. Because if you just cursor agent this and just start from nothing, it's going to make decisions on file structures and things that are great for what it needs right then and there, but down the road it's going to be a lot more difficult to maintain. So I think this like scoping is such an important part of building nowadays, especially in AI, and using the smartest model you got. And I've got O1 Pro right now. I can't wait for O3 Pro, but like spend the time, plan it out. I know that's us developers usually just want to dive right in and just start to code and start to see things, but like take the hour, take the 2 hours. And even for this project for Whisperbox, like we did a live stream to kick this whole project off. And we started out by opening up a whiteboard, being like, okay, well, what's the actual user experience look like here? What's the minimum requirements necessary to make this happen, and how could we get there? And that really helped us out, because we could have built a lot of things we didn't need. We could have built in a way that was not ideal, but we actually scoped it out properly and it made it a lot easier.
Wow. Yeah, please share that episode link, and I'll have a link in the description below for folks to follow, because there's probably just a lot of gold in there if you're trying to build products and you're not really sure what direction to go. Sometimes it's really good to watch someone else think through this, especially 2 people, because you can get in your own head, and especially with 2 people, it's even easier to actually get that little mirror back of reflection of, should I be going in this direction? So our friend here says, I'm dating R1. I guess you could say things are getting pretty serious. Yo, be careful, man. I've heard things. I've heard some things. Mihai says, a big fan of you guys, Mike and Ty, and of course you too, Ray. Definitely appreciate the love and stuff. Big shout outs to Jesse as well. We were able to answer about you guys and whether it's a hobby and so forth. And also big shout outs to BUFUCS or something. So yo. And this is actually live, which is really nice. And if you have any questions, just pop them in the chat, and then we can answer them and so forth. And are there any other things you guys want to share, either about what you're working on, the app, or something that with any of the
Well, even just to build off of Ty's point, when we were having these little project planning sessions, we were originally just going to do meeting transcriber, but both Ty and myself interact with voice a lot. It's one of our prime modalities for interfacing with the computer. So it kind of came to us because we've used voice transcription apps before that just take your voice in and just paste it. And we're like, what if we could feed into a pipeline? And we're like, well, we're already building meeting transcriber. What if we just kind of did both? So we're like, okay, meeting or monologue. And then it kind of evolved to this tool that has provided a lot of daily value when originally it was just going to be, a good alternative to services we don't want to pay for. We pay $30 a month. We can get it for free, do it locally. Like, let's just do that. But then we thought, what if we just 10x the value for us personally and say, if you want to have the stream of consciousness and have it condensed into a LinkedIn post, because we're trying to be more active there because it's not our favorite platform, but we realize that's where we got to spend a bit of time. So then we can just kind of vent about the latest model, something like maybe Stargate or DeepSeek, and then all of a sudden they'll structure it. Like, okay, instead of just me trying to type on a blank page for a while, all of a sudden I have this well laid out post and I can go in and turn to my own writing. I can kind of tweak it and it just gets me that much further the way there. And this was just a little plugin that we added on. And because, like Ty said, we thought about the architecture, it wasn't that difficult. Add an extra function and then we had our scripts and our profiles, and all of a sudden we just turned one thing into two things with a little bit of pre-planning.
Oh, very cool. Wow. And so where can people find you guys, and where can they reach out if they want to use the tool, and then more about your podcast and stuff?
So we're Tool Use Podcast at Tool Use AI on most platforms. On GitHub, I'm Mike Bird Tech, and then are you Fiero Ty as well?
I think I'm Ty Fiero on GitHub. Yeah, weirdly enough.
Well, there you go. So we do have this open sourced on GitHub. I put the link in the tweet. You can find it down below. Just look up Tool Use. We also have the Tool Use pip package. So if you pip install Tool Use AI, we put all of our AI tools in there so you can use directly in your terminal, whether it's doing a meeting researcher or a prioritizer or a terminal command interface. We have all of that available for everyone for free. And again, MIT license. We want people to be able to start incorporating AI tools into their life as easy as possible so no one gets left behind and we're all able to accelerate together. So Tool Use AI all over the place.
That's cool. I also just dropped it in the YouTube comments and reactions, and then I'll also have it in the description as well if you're watching on YouTube, so you can go ahead and check it out. So this would look basically something like this for the GitHub. Tool use /Whisperbox is kind of where you can go get it. So download there below. It's free. Go learn something. See how these tools are built. Build your own tools. Build on top of it. Share back with the community. If you do something, definitely tag us in it. It'd be really cool to hear from you if you're a builder. And kind of what you're building, and if you want to reach out, let us know. Hey, I did this. This is really cool, or I learned this thing. Always great to put stuff out there and just see the waves of impact. And so and I also feel like if you're getting started with AI, it's never too late. If you're even seeing this a year or two from now, it's a great time to start because there's just going to be even more work to do at all these different levels. I'm a big believer, as you can see, with these major complex systems, they're going to need a lot of different people with different expertise in different areas to do specific tasks. So, right now we're just trying to automate the boring stuff. There's a great Python book, I think it's called Automate the Boring Stuff. And it's a kind of, it'd be really interesting to go through that book actually and see if you can do make the book like a little tabletop book that's 5 pages. Okay, just push this button with the AI and it'll do that for you. But yeah, that was the original premise of the book. It's how to use Python to automate these Excel spreadsheets and analytics and things. And I think with AI, you can actually probably do that a lot faster now. Or ask ChatGPT. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually one thing I've noticed too. All of a sudden, the threshold to automate a task plummeted. So I'll take random little task I'll do and then just throw into Cursor, make a script for this, a little bit of proofreading, and then I have a new task automated. And you can string them together, you can make little pipelines, and then you can get a little more complex with it as you go. But build those basic building blocks. If you get the initial foundation set up in a composable way, you can take different things, start piecing them together. All of a sudden you get complex workflows. Something like this. This is a meeting transcriber just for this one little pain point we had. But if you look at the other pain points you experience throughout the day, you can probably break it into small components, automate them individually. And then as AI becomes more powerful, you'll be able to have something like operator, call these scripts, execute on a regular cadence, throw it behind a cron job if you want it to happen every day. But all of a sudden you're going to start saving time so you can focus on the things that matter more than writing a Python script or doing these mundane tasks.
That's awesome. Before we go, I have sort of a feature request, and it's not really around the transcriber, and maybe something either I build or hopefully someone in the community can build. but I would love for something to happen with emails. So somehow that this can categorize that this is an urgent email and then even create drafts for me and put it in my drafts folder and then even just notify me like, hey, this is something that's currently urgent. And if it's not urgent, then just kind of push it to the background and kind of keep it there and like maybe give me a little summary at the end of the day with like a text saying, here's the latest stuff that is interesting. And then what's interesting about like iOS is that there's actually hooks into the Mail app itself. So you can grab like the GUIDs for all the different emails. And then from a text message, you can punch in directly right to that message. There's like the app hooks and stuff like that. So it would be really interesting to discover or play with that type of thing and see, what you can do. There's also like the Mac OS version 2 to do that type of stuff. And I don't know. I was just kind of my dream goal, because I get so many emails and it's like it's hard to understand, like what should I do with them? And then there's like a lot of complex reasoning. And I think the reason why I'm thinking about this is because I'm playing around now more with these reasoning models. And with R1, they can take a lot more context, and then they're a lot more diligent about kind of combing through those pieces of detail, which is I really appreciate. And so that could be really interesting. So yeah, I think stay tuned, folks, for some future episodes where we may explore this idea or not. Or if you take this idea and run with it, please share. Like,
yeah, we'd love to have you on tool use if you build it, because we want to dissect these type of things.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, it might be like one of those weekend things where I just like I'm on a plane. All right, I have 5 hours. Let's go, because I have to fly back from Hawaii. So like I gotta maybe I might just do that. I dare you. That's the challenge. Yeah, load DeepSeek locally. Flying on a plane, 5 hours. I gotta build something before I land. Let's go. Who's in? That's like the ultimate lock-in, right? Like, all right, I'm building this in the bathroom, and like I'm hoping that they don't open the door to the bathroom, because I'm literally just, this is my new cubicle. Like, you're just like this. It sounds like a Mr. Beast video, right? Like, yeah. So
you could build an app on a flight. Yeah, that sounds great.
Like, and then the bigger challenge is like try to build it in the bathroom, right? It's like what do you think about trying to do something like this on mobile, like the old walkie-talkie? Oh, like Transcribe or something, or even just build a walkie-talkie app. That could be fun. Yeah, like set up a WebSocket between some local devices and stuff, and that could be actually really cool.
We played around with that a bit when we were doing the O1 project Open Interpreter, and there are a few concerns, but it's definitely doable. And especially if you put like a processing layer in the middle, man, you could do some cool stuff with that. Get a little scroll wheel of different ways you want to process it.
Walk and talk and have it output structured. Oh, I see. So like as you're walking, the output's kind of flowing in and restructuring and stuff. I think that could be really cool. Wow. Yeah, there's
actually I found.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Sorry. So Ty's been telling me to use pen and paper more, because it uses a different part of your brain and you can just help capture your thoughts more. One of like the unfounded anxieties I have with writing with pen and paper is that if you do something in the incorrect format or you want to restructure it, all of a sudden you have to start from scratch. Similar with voice, you can just regurgitate a stream of consciousness and it hits a different part of your brain than if you're just trying to type things out. But you might say things and then have a tangent and then lose track. And if you listen to the transcription after, it doesn't make much sense. But if you can have that ordered and structured in such a way that it makes it cohesive, all of a sudden you have a more valuable asset and you just went about your day as you would have normally. So that I think is one of the prime use cases here.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. And each of those folks have like their own tasks and stuff. There's this app that this like 17-year-old kid just dropped yesterday. It's called like bulletpen.ai. Have you guys seen this at all?
No.
I saw your tweet about it. I haven't checked it out though.
So it's got a similar vibe as far as like it, you talk to it and it generates a thing. And I think what I appreciate about this kid is just how much time he spent trying to like make the UI look nice and pretty. So it's like he slammed the transcription with Notion together all in one. Let me see if I can kind of log in and try to see if I can play with it and show you, because I think it's I don't know. I thought it was really interesting. It sort of sounds like what this guy's idea is in some ways. So like this is the app, and so you could just say, it has like a personality that you want to do for a reference, and you could say, this is me. Okay, let me see. Allow while visiting this site. Yes, this is me talking into a microphone. I'm hoping that you can hear me, and you can actually see the live captions over here on the left being captured. So it kind of looks like a chat bubble. And then the transcriptions below as it's scrolling. And then as it's doing that, it's actually actively going into this writing/yapping space. And this yapping space is basically where the transcription is basically, I guess, being reanalyzed in real time. And as I'm speaking, you're seeing it actually sort of write it out there. Isn't that crazy, right? So I'm going to hit stop talking. And so this rewrites whatever I just said in a persuasive tone with a Notion-like editor where you can do like H2, like YOLO. Oh, I don't know. I guess it's still processing its thing. But yeah, so you can kind of see this UI. And I thought I wanted to show you guys this because I thought this would be interesting for like maybe a GUI that you guys have, because somebody can probably build a GUI on top of this thing, on top of your thing, right? So I think that could be, I like GUIs and stuff, and that's kind of where I flow into. But yeah, this is bulletpen.ai, and I thought it was really cool as far as like an interactive way to sort of visualize like some of these transcripts, I guess, and like that meeting summarizer. And I was like, dang, this is interesting, but it's only like one page, one thought, one time. You can't really save it out. It's all there. And it's just this kid's like basically, I don't know, he's been building for the last month or something like this. But it's a cool idea. It's very novel. Yeah.
I love the interface. I think that's such a nice way of doing it. And I hope he sees this episode, gets a few bits of inspiration. Because if he could take those little things and turn them into profiles and were customizable, and like you said, have a few things, like, man, take all the ideas from Whisperbox and put them into that interface, because that's gorgeous.
Right?
I just want to move the whole thing forward. So yeah, bud, reach out if you have any questions.
Actually, I'll link you guys up. Yeah, his name is Rexon Wong. Yeah. 17 years old, and he's like blowing up because he came up with that app called Text Behind Image. So literally what you do is type in a text. It's like the current YouTube thumbnail trend, which is like you have yourself and then like some text is behind you saying like San Francisco or whatever. I use it all the time. But it's super useful actually, because I would do this in Canva and it's like a multi-step process, but he just does it all in one go with all the fonts. And so it's really cool. Like, talk about kid. He's like 17. He's like, all right, I'm just going to use AI to ship my apps. I'm going to learn as I go. Super amazing. So obviously getting lots of buzz because he's still in high school.
Wild.
Dude, these kids are cracked, man. They're so good. Yeah, it's like, I'm just getting started. I just shipped this like, thing that would take like 10 people to build in a SaaS. I just did it overnight. So it's cool.
Love to see it.
Yeah. I think with that note, definitely, once again, they can find you guys. Let them know where they can find all your transcription app and stuff like that.
So yeah, keep up with me on Twitter, Mike Bird Tech, GitHub, check out Tool Use, and we have a few more announcements coming soon. So subscribe to Tool Use, weekly conversation with the latest AI tools, and we got some really exciting guests coming up in February. So I really think you'll like those ones.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. And for your watching, make sure, go support these guys, go play around with these tools. I think it's going to be really helpful as far as, helping your life and your meetings. If you're currently paying a subscription, definitely worth checking out because, this is running on your own machine. You own your data and you control that as well and do whatever you want with it. So yeah, thank you guys for popping on and like showing us a quick demo of kind of what's going on. And yeah, we'll be excited to have you back and have more folks reach out to you. So if you're watching this episode, reach out to Mike and Ty if you have any feature requests. They'll probably be really happy to talk to you and figure out what your use case is for like a meeting. If you're also a corporation or not even a corporation, let's just say you're just trying to integrate this into your business, reach out to Mike and Ty. Because I'm pretty sure you guys would be willing to work with someone who would want to have this, right? If you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, and you need to have this stuff private, local on your things, you can't have this like family business spreading out to some other internet provider. And the worst is you want to send it to a different country and you never know what they're going to do with that data. So definitely reach out because I feel like this is a really great conversation to start having. There's you can make user interfaces and you can work with people to make them look pretty, just like I was showing you with this bullet pen thing. But the underlying thing, as far as what the technology is doing in the background, is super important. So thank you guys for coming on and making people aware. I feel like this is just the beginning of this wave, and I'm excited to see this tool evolve. And if anyone has any questions or anything, definitely reach out. Mike Bird, Ty Fierro, Tool Use Podcast. Definitely go check it out. And thanks for tuning in. This is so cool.
Yeah, right. Thank you so much for having us. Oh, always a pleasure talking to you.
All right, definitely. I'll catch y'all later.
See ya.
Bye. And broadcast.